Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ultimus. The third time I've sat down to try to record this video. I didn't like the way it was coming together. I got so far as rendering the old one all the way, was getting ready to publish it, and I decided, you know what, crap, I wouldn't watch it, so I'm not going to expect you guys to watch it. So we're going from there. Talking about artifact weapons, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over what was released over the weekend from BlizzCon. Everything from acquiring your artifact, looking at the trees and relics and traits that are coming through it. And then we're going to pull back and we're going to take a look at all of the skins and lore behind them. So this is going to be a little bit of a lengthy video, so hope you got your popcorn, your coffee, whatever it is you'd like to snack on while you're binging in front of your computer, and hold on to your butts. Acquiring your artifact. Basically, what isn't new information is every single class and spec is going to be sent on a quest to acquire their weapon. Each weapon is drenched in lore, some fairly familiar and pretty seasoned as far as the Warcraft universe is concerned. Others are fairly new and they are made up and original to that particular weapon. So you'll be familiar with some stuff, some you won't. A little bit of an interesting call. I think I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Actually, I'm gonna hold off. I'm gonna refrain from saying one way or the other on that one. I know there was a lot of opportunities for some good legendary weapons. But they made their choice, and so far I don't know if it's necessarily a bad one, so we'll go from there and we'll see what happens. And yes, you may take note that right here in the background, that is Karazhan. Part of the Warlock quest, you're going to go underneath Karazhan to battle through some of that goodness. Everyone has been speculating for a while what's been under Karazhan. There's even a couple of YouTubers and there's some videos out there of people basically getting underneath Karazhan. So coincidence? I think not. The big thing with artifact weapons is they grow in power as you do. They are your main source of growth, character development, all that stuff like that. So it makes sense that you would need multiple ways to grow it because not everybody is interested in the same content. With so much coming in Legion as far as endgame content, every single one of those aspects looks like it's going to be rewarding you for it. Quest bosses, rare spawns, rare drops, dungeon bosses, raid bosses, winning battlegrounds, and arena victories. So whatever you're into, whatever your bread and butter is as a WoW player, you're going to be able to grow your artifact weapon through it. Which is great news. Again, being able to kind of bottleneck us into only doing one type of progression would have been a bad thing, and I think Blizzard is smart enough to know that. So what we're getting here, we are looking at a lot of different options, which is great. If you want to do battlegrounds and arenas and stuff like that, if you're like me and you're super into PvP, then you're going to be able to grow your artifact weapon because of that. You're not forced into raiding. You're not being forced into questing or anything like that. So, good call on Blizzard's part. I'm quite confident of that. They also showed us the artifact traits. As you can see here, what we're taking a look at is the Affliction Warlock weapon. If you'll notice here on each of the points here, there's a couple different ones. There's the ones without the borders, and then you'll see the ones that have the Gold Dragon Elite border around it. What I've been able to gather is, based on this slide and the next slide that we'll pull on over to, is some are passive, and then the ones with the border around them seem like they're activated skills or abilities, actual castable abilities. You're going to get access to all these throughout the course of the expansion. They've made it pretty clear that you're not going to get access to all these right away. And it's going to take a decent amount of time to unlock everything. So, definitely a reason to keep logging in, keep playing. I hope they balance it out right between actually giving you a reason to keep playing, but not dragging it on to where it just feels like a chore. And I know that's tricky, and I know that will vary from person to person, so here goes nothing, right? But this is your main source of growth. This, coupled with the new talents and things are going to be coming out, they're boasting, again, over 100 different talent choices. So, pretty nifty. Up here at the top, we'll see some relic points as well. We'll pull back and take a look at those. But if you'll notice, it does mention the artifact power. So that's going to grow, like we said, over time as you progress, and that's going to get higher. Unleash Harvest. It's one of the active skills there attached to the Warlock artifact weapon. Deals that 1,457 shadow damage every 3 seconds for 42 seconds. Each time unleashed, the harvest deals damage and increases the damage frequency by 6.66%. I see what you did there, Blizzard. So very similar to how Agony works in a sense as far as it stacks and stacks and gets stronger and stronger. So pretty nifty. And I'd imagine this can get stronger as you level up your weapon. So we got one of the passive talents here. Inherently Unstable increases the critical strike chance of your unstable affliction by 8%, rank 3 of 3. So again, you can put extra points into that. Now what is kind of cool, if you look over here at the next one, get another active, or another skill there, but this one isn't active, so I suppose my theory has been disproven, which is okay. When you kill a target, its soul bursts into flames, dealing shadow flame damage to everything around it. That's kind of cool. Terrifying as well, but cool. They are boasting progression beyond level 110, so this doesn't stop once you hit max level. Again, you are going to continue to be able to grow this and level this up and expand the power from your artifact weapon, therefore the power of your character past level 110. This is a pretty cool addition, I think, and I think they're taking a little bit from Diablo in this one, still, in that your character progression does not stop once you hit level 100. I was talking to a good buddy of mine a couple months ago, and he was talking about comparing WoW to Diablo, and the reason he prefers Diablo over WoW, at least right now, is that he likes the fact that you don't ever feel like your character stops getting powerful. Now, with Diablo, you're looking at a lot of RNG, so you don't necessarily have a whole lot of control over it, but it really seems like there's always something better out there that keeps you playing. So this right here, if this works out the way I'm thinking it's going to work out, we could see a lot of cool stuff and a lot of reason to keep logging in and playing. Relics. A big portion of your artifact weapon, you're going to get to choose your relics, get your relics, and these you're going to plug into your artifact weapon. Yeah, that's a little bit better, except for... If you look and be able to see, we're getting plus rank to the Pulsing Infernal Shard. So you're going to plug that in. And what we're going to be able to do is we're actually going to be able to limit break, essentially. I'm taking that term from Final Fantasy, but you're going to be able to extend your artifact weapon's power beyond what the talent cap is. So say again, we're looking at a cap of 3 of 3 points put into it. You can, if with the right relics, you can push those talents past rank 3. And you'll notice over here with the inherently unstable, another rank is 4, increases the damage up. You're getting 2 relics up there. Kind of cool. Kind of cool stuff. I like that ability a lot. There are going to be many forms and options to upgrade your artifact, ranging from skins and things like that. So good stuff right there. As you can see here with the Warlock weapon, for example, we're looking at the original plus the buffed, the different versions, and then of course there's different skin colors we can throw in there as well. Dig in the options a lot. Let's go ahead and look at each individual class and spec. Starting with the Death Knight. Though before we go on, I will post a link to this website as well as the one we were previously looking at in the description below, so you can check these out for yourself. So if you couldn't read some of the stuff there, then you'll be able to check it out and know that I'm not crazy. So we're looking at Death Knights. Looking at Blood, Frost, and Unholy, of course. Blood gets Maw of the Damned. This is one of the better looking ones, I think, in all honesty, like as far as all of the artifact weapons. I just love the way this Blood Death Knight axe looks. It is an ancient legion axe forged from a metal that drains its victims' vital energies. The soul of its original creator is trapped within it. It's cursed with unending hunger. For more than 1,000 years, an old and cunning Moag has used the axe to butcher uprisings and consume the life force of the Legion's foes. Over its long and infamous history, the weapon has made its demonic bearer extraordinarily powerful. So again, a little bit of lore behind that one there. Pretty nifty. You guys are going to be able to get an example of my excellent reading abilities. Excellent in quotation marks. Frost gets Icebringer and Frost Reaper, blades of the fallen prince, crafted by the Burning Legion to corrupt the world of Azeroth. The soul-stealing runeblade Frostmourne was shattered by Ashbringer atop Icecrown Citadel. Countless souls were freed from the broken blade, but others were not so fortunate. What is going on outside my window? Dang kids and their skateboards, don't they know I'm trying to record stuff here? My goodness. Where was I? Today, the shards of Frostmourne can be recrafted and infused with even more power. However, the spirit still strapped within must be first subdued and then bent to the wielder's will. I hope we're stronger than Arthas, or we could find ourselves in a dicey situation there. I guess it's worth mentioning, it seems, though I haven't been given any inclination as to any other possibility, but Frost is going to be exclusively dual wield. I doubt you'll be able to forge these into 1 2-hander. It just seems like it would be, what's the point? So dual wielding Frost, not a bad idea. Don't mind it at all. Unholy gets Apocalypse. Pretty dope name. Pretty dope, pretty dope. I think it's a fitting for an Unholy Death Knight. Vampiric demons known as the Nazrim forged this ancient sword, which brings with it violence, plagues, and death. Apocalypse soon earned a horrific reputation in the hands of Tristgard, I should say, I'm so sorry, who couldn't control its destructive energies. That's what happens when you give a mage a Death Knight weapon. They can't handle the power. In time, the sword was seized by the malevolent Dark Rider servants of Medivh, the corrupted guardians of Tristfall. They hid the blade in the catacombs under his home, the Tower of Karazhan. So Death Knights be going to Karazhan, baby. Wonder if we'll run into any warlocks and get to chop them down there. Just throwing that out there. I don't know. I mean, we gotta kill the warlocks. We can't trust them. They mess with the Burning Legion. They're like on this. For all we know, they're all gonna betray us to Sargeras. Huh? Huh? Just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there. Next, we'll take a look at the Demon Hunter, the Twin Blades of the Deceiver for the Havoc Spect Demon Hunter. I literally almost said Death Knight because I'm used to just being Death Knights as the heroic class. This is going to be a trip. These glaives belong to the former Demon Hunter Veritas Fellsoul, once a member of the Illidari and a sworn enemy of the Burning Legion. He was slain at the Black Temple after the Legion's leader Kil'jaeden revived him in the Twisting Nether. Veritas surrendered to the demon within him, forsaking his mortality. In the process, he and his glaives were infused with great power by Kil'jaeden's Eredar allies. So getting a nice little look at those. And again, this doesn't cover all of the different skins and colors we're getting. That's going to be in the other link that I'm going to post below, but we're getting just a baseline look at these ones here. And then for the Vengeance, which is the tank spec for Demon Hunters, Eldrachi Warblades. Eldraki? I don't know, pronounce that right. I guess you guys are going to have to figure that one out. Your guess is as good as mine on that one. In ages past, the Dark Titan Sargeras offered the mighty Eldrachi. That sounds Italian. It sounds like an Italian dish. People a place in his burning legion, but the Eldrachi proved... I can't unsee it now. Gosh darn it. Demon Hunters, the Italian class. They slew innumerable demons before their race was wiped out. Sargeras personally killed their greatest champion and seized his weapons. Much later, a demon hunter willingly became the servant of Sargeras' lieutenant Kil'jaeden. Pleased, Kil'jaeden bestowed the warblades on her that she might wield a portion of the Eldrachi's bygone might and devastate the mortals of Azeroth with it. So I like the difference and the differentiating between the two, so we're not just getting two sets of warglaives. I like that Blizzard decided to keep with their theme of, alright, every spec needs its own unique artifact weapon, so we're getting something that looks very similar to those Fist of the Deity from one of the, I believe it's Zoldrak, the Wrath of the Lich King dungeon that a lot of monks and shamans like to wield. So kind of cool concept there. I can get behind that one. Looking at the Druid artifact weapons, good stuff here. Balance gets the Scythe of Elune. This mystical artifact was created a millennia ago from the Staff of Elune and a Fang from the Wolf demigod Goldrin. The Scythe of Elune carries a long and unsettling history for Druids. Those who are not careful enough can easily be overwhelmed by Goldrin's spirit, which infuses the Scythe. Tied to the origin of the Worgen of Azeroth, the Scythe is said to possess untold lunar power for the Druid with balance enough to keep control. Very tongue-in-cheek of you, Blizzard. Very tongue-in-cheek. Pharaoh gets Fangs of Ashamain. The massive gray panther Ashamain, one of the first wild gods, was one of many. Herp-a-derp-a-derp-a-derp. To answer the call of the demigod Sonaris and defended the world of Azeroth during the war on the Ancients. She fell in battle against the Legion but saved countless lives in the process. A great shrine was built in her honor in Val'sharah, and her fangs were adorned and put on display there. It is said that they still carry much of her power. What you might notice here, which is a big deal, is that Feral Druid is dual wielding. That's a change. Not sure how that's going to play in or how that's going to work. Seems like the Druids are stealing a little bit of Rogue Thunder there, but it's kind of cool. It makes sense. So for carrying Fangs, there would be at least two of them. I mean, you can't just have one Fang and call it a Fangs. It's basic English there. So pretty nifty. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing all the different locations they take us for some of these. Some of these are going to be similar locations, I think, but overall, just the different variety of places we get sent off to find these artifact weapons seems pretty cool. Surprising no one, at least not me anyways, I guess I shouldn't say no one, but Guardians, Bears, Claws of Ursoc, the bear god or whatever his face is. He's kind of dope, I'm not going to lie. Maybe it's my bias towards bears, but there it is. Those things look cool too, those fist weapons over there, those claws, like, that's pretty sick. Forged from the Titan steel by the Titanic Watcher, Keeper Freya, these claws were her gift to the Great Bear Ursoc, one of the wild gods. If you don't remember Freya, she was one of the bosses in Old War. Maha! He wielded the claws in countless battles until his death during the war, and the ancients, although his body faded away, the claws remained, and legends say a fragment of his spirit lingered within them. After wresting the claws away from Ursoc's Furbolg followers, a band of druids took the claws to the Emerald Dream, sought by Ursoc's spirit, and returned the claws to him for safekeeping. So pretty nifty. Like, I mean, look at how cool this thing is. Look how cool that bear is. I can't get over that. Almost makes me want to play a Guardian Druid, but then I realize that I have to tank, and I don't want that kind of pressure. Restoration. Now this is probably going to be one of the trickier ones to pronounce. I'm just going to call it Jihan. I'm kidding. Gahanir the Mother Tree. This is the simple branch taken from Gahanir, the first tree which was gifted to mortal druids by the demigod Aviana long ago. Its connection to the mystical Emerald Dream serves as a healing and stabilizing influence in the world of Azeroth. In recent times, druids have used this staff to hold back the corruption and madness of the Nightmare. As a result, satyrs within the Nightmare are desperate to see Gahanir destroyed. So you might get a little Emerald Dream, Emerald Nightmare action pre-raid as a druid if you're going in here for this staff. Kind of cool. I got a buddy who plays a Resto Druid, and he was a little concerned that Resto Druids wouldn't really get a very cool-looking artifact weapon, but I am glad to say that that is not the case. That thing is pretty cool-looking. One of the classes getting some of the most major changes in World of Warcraft, to at least one of their specs, but we'll get to that in a bit. Beastmaster gets Titan Strike. Fancy little gun there. A peerless example of techno-magical engineering, the Titan Strike was designed by Keeper Mimron, also from Old War there. A Titanic Watcher and brilliant inventor securely housed in the heart of the rifle. A relic known as the Thunder Spark powers the Titan Strike, harnessing the essence of storms and focusing it into a concentrated blast of energy. The rifle's power source can also be credited to Mimron, who devised it for his comrade Keeper Thorim in ages past. It's a pretty spiffy looking gun. I'm curious at what the blast animations will be like on it. Definitely would be kind of cool for seeing lots of thunder and sparks of lightning and things like that coming out of it. It'd be pretty spiffy. Marksman Hunters, Thosdora, Legacy of the Windrunners. A proud heirloom in the werewolf. A proud heirloom, let's try that again, of the Windrunner family. Thosdora was carved from a bow of the mother tree of Eversong Woods shortly after the elven kingdom of Kel'Thalas was founded. Handed down to the eldest of each generation, the bow was last wielded by the high elf ranger Captain Alera Windrunner. It disappeared along with its owner following the destruction of the Orcs' homeworld Draenor and the subsequent formation of Outland. So makes complete and total sense that hunters would get a bow connected to the Windrunners. I mean, surprising no one really. Survival Hunters get Talonclaw Spear of the Wild Gods. Survival Hunters, in case you lived under a rock and weren't following anything Blizzard related for the past couple months, Survival Hunters are completely being reworked and turning into Melee Hunters. Still getting a pet, but not having a bow anymore. We're focusing only on melee. There's the spear. The High Mountain Tauren crafted the spear, which predates the first demonic invasion of Azeroth more than 10,000 years ago. Talonclaw's wielders have fought alongside many guardian animal spirits, also known as ancients, to defend the world of Azeroth, its wildlife in particular. Over the millennia, these ancients have bestowed their blessings on the weapon, imbuing it with a portion of their power. Pretty spiffy looking weapon there. Especially when you get to some of the reskins and we're getting that wolf head on the top of there with the chain wrapping around it as opposed to just the little pokey there in the end. Liking the options. Mages. Arcane mages are getting Aluneth, Great Staff of the Magna. Luneth was most notably wielded for a time by Aegwynn, one of the female guardian of Tristball. I'm sorry, the only, not one of, the only. That's a big difference. Although stories indicate that it was far older than she is said to have found the staff roughly a century after she took up the mantle of guardian, and to have wielded Luneth in many battles against the Burning Legion several years before relinquishing her title. She retired the staff, but none knew where she might have stored it. We're probably going to find that out, just to guess. Alternate skin there, looking at that one. Fire gets Fellow Malorn. Fellow Malorn? Fellow Malorn? Maybe. Flame Strike in its native tongue. Ah, that makes sense. We'll just call it Flame Strike. Fellow Malorn was born into battle by members of the Sunrider family as they proved their valor in the War of the Ancients during the Troll Wars and against the Death Knight Arthas Menethil. After it was destroyed, Prince Kael'thas Sunstrider reforged the sword to be even stronger and used it against the Lich King, trading several blows with the demonic Runeblade Frostmourne. Ultimately, Kael'thas was forced to retreat, and the sword was lost in the frigid wastes of Northrend. In case you were a little confused, this predates the Wrath of the Lich King, so if you're confused and saying, why the heck, I don't remember seeing Kael'thas up at the Wrath of the Lich King raid in Icecrown Citadels, because this happened before all that, so don't get your panties in a bunch. And the Frost Mage finally get Ebon Chill. The great staff was wielded by Elodie, the first guardian of Tristfall. He bore the staff into many battles against the Legion forces for the century in which he served as guardian, then stepped down from the role of guardian, but he retained the staff to his dying day. Upon his passing, the Kirin Tor stored the staff safely away for fear of what might happen if a lesser mage attempted to wield its power without the ability to control it fully. So basically, you're only going to be able to use this staff if you're a rank 1 mage. I'm just kidding. Monks. Brewmaster gets Fuzan, the Wanderer's companion. Long ago, as the Titanic Watcher Freya set out to populate the world with life, she placed one of the first seeds in Pandaria. From it grew Zufan, the first of all Pandara's forests, descended from it. Before populating the rest of Azeroth, Freya fashioned a walking stick for her travels from one of Fuzan's branches. Eventually, Freya passed her staff to the Jade Spirit Yulon, who later gave it to a uniquely clever Hosen. The Monkey King, as he was called, hung his most prized possessions from the staff, which he carried with him to this day. So I guess we're gonna go team up with the Hosen. I don't know how I feel about them. The monkeys were quite troublesome in Mist of Pandaria. Mistweaver gets Sheilun, Staff of the Mist. During the last Pandaren Emperor's reign, a prophecy arose that a ruthless legion would invade the world of Azeroth and leave it shattered. To save his people, Emperor Shaohao embarked on a series of trials, taking with him the ancient staff Sheilun. Afterwards, he used his newfound wisdom to become part of the land. He made Pandaria into a separate continent and enshrouded it in the mist to protect it. His staff clattered to the ground where it lay until the monks of Tian Monastery found it and took it to the Terrace of Endless Spring for safekeeping. I'm curious if that particular prophecy about the Legion was a previous Legion invasion, or if it's actually about this specific Legion invasion. My guess is that it's specifically about this Legion invasion. I'm not all that familiar with Warcraft lore. I am, but I'm not, so I'm not like super clear on it, but it's kind of cool. Definitely give us some insight onto where the monks, or at least the Mistweaver monks, will be traveling for that one. Terrace of Endless Spring. And finally, the Windwalker gets Fist of the Heavens. Thousands of years ago, the famed Tol'vir smith Eramat crafted a pair of magnificent handblades. Unsatisfied with his work, Eramat tried to capture the essence of Alakir, the Windlord, to infuse it into his blades. Alakir was not amused. I can't imagine he would be. To spite the smith, Alakir poured unspeakable amounts of raw elemental fury into the handblades. When Eramat attempted to unleash their might, a great vortex sprang up and engulfed his city and scattered the weapons into the winds. My guess for these, where you're going to find these, will probably be Ultimus. Seems to make sense. I can't imagine they would go anywhere else, but I could be wrong, and I've been wrong before. So, there's that. Pretty cool looking weapons, though. Next, we're taking a look at Paladins, Holy Paladins. Now, there were some people that were upset about not getting Uther's Hammer, but quite frankly, I think this one might be a little bit cooler. Just throwing that out there. As one of the Titanic Watchers, Keeper Tyr bore this weapon in countless battles against the Titan's enemies. When one of his fellow Keepers, Loken, fell to corruption, Tyr and his allies stole the discs of Norganen. To investigate the extent of Loken's betrayal. Discovering the theft, Loken sent horrific monsters after Tyr's group. But Tyr sacrificed his life to fight the creatures. When his comrades escaped with the discs, his hammer was lost with him somewhere beneath the land now named in his honor, Trisfall. So, pretty sick looking hammer. I'm kind of excited about it. It's definitely huge and massive and kind of a trip, but I think it's pretty fitting for a Holy Paladin. The only thing I think is kind of strange and a little bit of a bummer for me, at least as someone who plays a Holy Paladin off and on, is we're getting a book there on our offhand, not a shield. So that's a little disappointing, but it could be worse because it's kind of a cool looking book. At least it's got a fist on it. Protection Paladins are getting Truth Guard. The Titanic Watchers, Tyr and Arcadius created the shield when their comrade Loken fell to corruption. They gave Truth Guard to a Vicruel champion who used it to expose Loken's treachery. When Tyr and his allies later stole the discs of Norgannon and fled, the champion stayed behind and held off many of Loken's servants. A desperate Loken sent horrific monsters after Tyr, who fell in combat. In the time, the Vicruel champion migrated to Stormheim in the Broken Isles, where the shield was eventually entombed in the path of... I don't know. That's just kind of where the text stops. All right, whatever. Let's take a look at that weapon. Sick looking shield. I like that it comes with the shield and the sword, that they didn't stop there. They didn't just give us the sword, but they gave us a pretty sick looking shield as well. And of course, as everybody already knows, this isn't a surprise, the Ashbringer for Retribution Paladins. King Magni Bronzebeard forged the Ashbringer from a piece of crystal purified by wielders of the Holy Light. This gave the sword strange light-bearing powers. It was named for its ability to slaughter undead, leaving nothing but ash in its wake. Ashbringer passed through several hands, serving both light and shadow before it came to the legendary paladin Tyrion Fordring, who used it to shatter the Lich King's rune blade Frostmourne on top of Icecrown Citadel. Tyrion has carried Ashbringer with him ever since. Always does beg the question, so how are we gonna get it? But I'm loving these like skins of Ashbringer, like the shattered blade there. It's all busted up. It's got lightning. Pretty sick. Priests. Disciplined priests are getting Light's Wrath. Obsessed with cleansing undead from the world of Azeroth, the fanatical Scarlet Crusade tried to create a second Ashbringer in the form of a staff. You can't have two Ashbringers. That's just silly. Why would you do that? However, a Dreadlord who had infiltrated the Order intervened, interrupted their efforts, and triggering a violent magical explosion. The damaged staff power proved nearly uncontrollable after several wielders tried and failed to use the staff safely. The elite Magi of the Kirin hid it away, lest it unleash further deadly calamities. So this is playing in with the swap of the Disciplined Priest playstyle, which we will talk about in another video when we go over the class changes and just kind of the feel for what's changing there. But Disciplined Priests are shifting from bubbles and absorbs necessarily to healing primarily through dealing damage. So this plays in very well to that, and I think it'll be an interesting bit to see how this works out. There's one of the alternate skins on it with books and things like that. Looks pretty sick. But you can tell it kind of has similar feel to Benediction, but not really. But fairly similar enough to be like, oh, that's interesting. Holy gets Tur, Beacon of the Naru. As beings of holy light, the benevolent Naru rescued the Draenei from their homeworld after most of its people were transformed into demonic recruits by the Burning Legion. Demons nearly overwhelmed the fleeing Draenei, but the Naru protected the refugees with this beacon crystal. Turu channels the light's essence into healing radiance, regenerating horrific wounds and bringing people back from the brink of death. Ultimately, the crystal was lost to Legion forces on an invaded world, and it hasn't been seen since. Digging that alteration there of the staff with all the fel and shadow magic is attached to it. Pretty cool contrast from the shadow and light bits there that also looks like a ribcage. That's slightly terrifying. And Shadow is getting Xal'atath, the Blade of the Black Empire. I have no idea who this Black Empire is. Maybe I should brush up on a little bit more of my lore. This terrifying dagger was made from the claw of an old god eons ago. Which old gods? Xal'atath, maybe? I don't know. That's kind of... I want to know. Who is this old god? I want to know. I must know. The Dark Priests used it for ritual sacrifices during the heights of the Black Empire. After the fall of the old gods, Xal'atath was hidden away by cults and has surfaced from time to time over the course of history, inevitably associated with some horrific ritual or disaster. Makes sense. You wouldn't exactly expect to see a surgeon using it. The blade has a will of its own. It uses powerful void energies and mind magics to warp everything around it for some nefarious purpose. So now we can't trust Shadow Priest either because they're connected to the old gods. Just throwing that out there. I do think it's strange that Shadow Priests are getting a dagger, but I guess it fits. I don't know. I was kind of hoping for a staff personally as someone who just finished leveling their Shadow Priest, but it could be worse. We could have nothing. We could have nothing. Taking a look at Rogues. Rogues are another class that got a really gnarly overhaul, replacing one of their specs entirely with a new one. But we're looking at Assassination, getting Anguish and Sorrow. The Orc Warlock Gul'dan had these daggers made for his personal assassin, Garona. The blades are said to drink blood and inflict traceless poison, leaving little sign of their grim work. The perfect tools for assassination. I mean, it makes sense. If that an assassination rogue would get them. She used them to carry out countless atrocities while under Gul'dan's control, including the murder of Stormwind's King Lane, whom she had befriended. Afterwards, in anguish, she asked trusted ally Merrill Windstorm to help her hide the blades away in the hope that they'd never have to be used again. I'm curious where we'll find those. They're pretty sick looking, though, with all those spikes and just curvatures on them. Ugh, just couldn't imagine getting that thrust to your side. Thank you, but no thank you. Outlaw, the Dreadblades, Fate and Fortune, a revamping of the Rogue's second spec, no longer having combat, but switching over to Outlaw. Kind of a cool name for them, too, I'm not going to lie, the Dreadblades. Works for me, kind of like reminds me of the Dread Pirate. I don't know, since we're going for, you know, a piratey type thing here, I can get behind that. Shortly after the Cataclysm, Admiral Eliza Goreblade discovered a pair of ornately crafted cutlasses inside a recently unearthed wreck not far from Booty Bay. Though the origins of the blades were unclear, their power was not, and Eliza quickly made her name known, pillaging countless ships across the Great Sea, none able to best her in combat. Rumors spread among pirates and sailors about the Dreadblades, most common ones all agreeing that they are cursed, and that they should ever stop being fed new victims, they'll claim their owner instead. So, don't ever stop playing your Outlaw Rogue, or your account will be destroyed. That's what I'm getting from that. Just throwing that out there. Subtlety gets Fangs of the Devourer. Gormaw the Devourer, Sargeras' personal hound, claimed countless lives before it was eventually ambushed and killed on another world long ago. You know what? This might be what is sparking the Legion X-Pack. Sargeras is just pissed we killed his dog. I mean, I would be too. Thanks, rogues. Jeez, gotta jack those daggers. Following the hound's death, wow, that is a mouthful. Mephistroph had his fangs crafted into two powerful daggers that still carried with them some of the potent withering essence that made Gormaw's bites so deadly. These daggers were passed to Akari, one of Sargeras' most deadly assassins who wields them to this day. Guess we're going to have to kill him. Just throwing that out there because I doubt he's going to give those daggers up freely. Moving on to Shamans, looking at Elemental, getting the Fist of Ra-Den. Complete with shield, pretty dope looking shield I might add. Aman'Thul the Highfather, leader of the Titan Pantheon, entrusted his greatest servant, Highkeeper Ra, with this artifact, which could channel the fury of the storms. Ra used it to bestow life on the Titanforge Mogu race, and he wielded it in battle against the Black Empire for years beyond counting. Later lost to Ra, their weapon was ultimately recovered by the August Celestial Zwen, who saw its immense and dangerous power and chose to safeguard it until someone worthy could take up the weapon in a righteous cause once again. That fist weapon looks bloody sick. Like, that thing is pretty dope. Interesting that they chose to give Elemental Shamans a fist weapon, but I have no complaints because that thing is pretty dope looking. So, Elemental Shamans, you're getting some love there on that one, I think. Enhancement gets Doomhammer. Also, not surprised there, as this is not new information. This is one of the weapons they showcased at Gamescom. Forged in elemental lava on the Orc homeworld of Draenor, this massive hammer is connected deeply with the elements, and its true power is only awakened in the hands of those who can speak to the elements in kind. The Doomhammer was long wielded by Orgrim Doomhammer. I don't know why I had a hard time with that name. Out of all the names to pronounce, that's the one I goof up. One of the greatest Orc warriors of the Horde, and now rests with Thrall, one of the most powerful shaman Azeroth has ever known. Again, one of those weapons. How we're going to get this, not really sure. But as you can see there in the depiction there of our dwarf shaman friend up here, you're going to be wielding Doomhammer in one hand and an ethereal version of whatever it is in the next. because obviously enhancement is, you know, two one-handers. I should say, not two-hander. The dream is dead. The dream is so dead. But you're going to get different versions of it to contrast that flaming one with the fell greeny one here. Kind of cool. Still got the frost wolf symbol there in the center. And Restoration is getting the Scepter of Ashara, a powerful scepter created by Queen Ashara long ago before her transformation into a Naga. The scepter swirls with waters from the Well of Eternity prior to its corruption, granting the scepter great magical and restorative powers. I mean, that makes sense since you're going to be a Resto Shaman. It'd be really awkward if it was, you know, eating away at your soul. The Scepter of Ashara was lost during the War of the Ancients, shortly before Ashara and many of her followers were swallowed by the sea, taken up by surviving Night Elves who knew nothing of the power it truly held. It was buried within unknown priestess in a family tomb in Ashuna, waiting to be discovered by someone that could unlock its true potential. Also comes with a nifty looking little shield over there. Reminds me of some of the stuff from Ulduar, which is kind of cool because I really like the gear from Ulduar, so I'm not complaining. Warlocks. Taking a look first at the staff we looked at when we did our overview of some of the talents, relics, and bits coming from what the artifact weapon system was going to look like. Affliction is getting Ultilash, the Deadwind Harvester. The first Necrolite to walk the world of Azeroth, Satiel was given the scythe by the Titan Sargeras himself. It grows in power as it draws souls from its victims. The Harvester earned its name as Satiel. Methodically drain all life from the hapless inhabitants of the Deadwind Pass, creating a potent magical nexus there in the process. So this is what's responsible for that hole in the earth there, Deadwind Pass. That place is horrible to walk through. Now I know who to blame. Hunting down the Satiel, the guardian of Trisfal turned the scythe on her, sending her soul to join those of her victims. Eventually, the Dark Riders recovered the weapon and secreted it beneath the Tower of Karazhan. Now, before we move on, something I did forget to mention when we were doing our overview of the artifact weapons earlier was it was mentioned throughout some of the whisperings and tweetings that I've been following from BlizzCon that this particular weapon and many of the other artifact weapons are going to have some flavor text attached to them. For example, remember if you could recall, Ashbringer back in the day would whisper to you. These weapons are supposed to like talk to you or whisper to you depending on what they are, and this weapon in particular is supposed to have souls trying to escape from it, and if you kill those souls to reclaim them back from them, it actually grants you back mana. So I don't know if there's going to be any other mechanics like that coming up from some of these other weapons, but that concept is pretty freaking dope, and I think it's cool, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays into each class and their play style. I can get behind it. Demonology gets the Skull of Minari. The most unique looking artifact weapon out there, probably. It's not being held. It's not. At first I thought it was a mask, but then I realized no, it's not really there. It's just kind of floating there. So Demonology Warlocks, you don't get a sword, a scythe, nothing like that. No books, no weapons in your actual hands. You just got this floating skull. Before the Eridar served the Titan Sargeras, one of their greatest leaders, Thalkiel, had unprecedented skill with summoning and binding magics. Driven by ambition, he reached into the void where he was answered with knowledge of dark creatures unlike the Eridar had seen before. His audacious power grab infuriated the demon lord Archimonde, who struck him down, then had his skull gilded and placed on display as a warning. He dug too greedily and too deeply, I suppose. Today, the Dreadlord Mephesaroth uses it to enhance his ability to summon and command demon armies for the Legion. So probably again the most unique looking one, and it's kind of cool. Cool concept. I like the idea. I don't know if, I mean, I'm not a Demonology Warlock, so maybe Demonology Warlocks hate it, but it looks kind of cool. Destruction gets the Scepter of Sargeras. That is straight and to the point. You are getting Sargeras' staff and scepter. That's actually terrifying. Again, even more reason to not trust Warlocks. Created through incredible effort by hundreds of Sargeras' servants, the scepter can rip open dimensional gateways between worlds. It was entombed beneath the sea for centuries, then used by the orc shaman Ner'zhul to open the portals that tore the world of Draenor apart, leaving behind the shattered realm of Outland. The scepter was finally secured by the elite magi of the Kirin Tor. Unable to destroy it, they hid it away in a magical protected chamber and put it under eternal watch to prevent it from ever being used again. I don't know if I will ever trust the Kirin Tor again, because they keep hiding these artifacts and every single one of them keeps getting stolen or slipping away from their fingers. And last but not least, saving the best for last, of course, the Warriors. The best class. Not biased or anything, I swear. Arms is getting Stormcar. Arms is getting Stormcar, the Warbreaker. This greatsword was born into combat by the barbarian warlord who first united humanity under a single banner, founding the nation of Arathor. A master tactician and strategist, King Thoradin went on to play a critical role in the ending of the Troll Wars. Later, the sword was lost while it was being used to subdue a Sithraxian monstrosity in a forgotten tomb beneath Tristfall. Abandoned and all but forgotten, Stormcar has been slowly drinking from the shadowy power there for over 1,000 years. So, if you were like me and you were speculating what the Arms Warrior weapon could have been, would have been, we were all completely wrong. I'm just happy it's a sword. Axe wouldn't have been a bad option, but I'm just kind of glad it wasn't a mace. I was a little concerned there, not gonna lie. But that top model looks pretty cool. I'm definitely excited about it. It looks like it's going to be a big enough sword. I mean, if you're an Arms Warrior wielding a massive two-hander, definitely better than a small two-hander that could pass for a one-hander. Zoid's Firelit Greatsword, I'm looking at you, you tiny, tiny two-hander, you. The bottom one there, I'm not sure how I feel about that one. It looks okay. I mean, it's not terrible. Reminds me of a Keyblade from Kingdom Hearts, though, a little bit, which is kind of cool. But I definitely prefer that top model. No comparison. Fury is getting War Swords of the Valajar. In ages past, the Titanic Watcher Keeper Odin betrayed the sorceress Helia. Betrayed the sorceress Helia, killing her and twisting her spirit into a spectral Valkyr. He forged this pair of swords for the mightiest of his Stormforged Valajar, but Helia destroyed the swords and infused them with the portion of her rage. She then gave them to her own champion, who used them to hunt the greatest of heroes and drag their souls away to serve in Helheim. These swords still stir their owner with unrelenting and punishing attacks that overcome the target's defenses and leave no opening for counterattacks. So, Fury Warriors, attacks can't be dodged. Confirmed. Wouldn't that be the dream? And finally, Protection is getting Scale of the Earth Warrior. I'm definitely, lore-wise at least, I am probably the most jealous that Prot Warriors get this. I was hoping for something related to Neltharion or Deathwing for Arms Warriors, but I know I'm like probably in the minority here on that one, and that's okay. An impenetrable shield crafted from a scale of the Black Dragon aspect, Neltharion the Earth Warder. Before the old god's corruption overcame him, the formidable Vicruel King Magnar Icebreaker carried this shield into combat and won victory after victory in the face of grim odds. When he finally fell in battle, it was due to treachery by the servants of the Valkyr Helia. The shield is now entombed in the King, with King Magnar's body in the Path of Kings in Stormheim. So overall, pretty excited about what Warriors are getting. As a Warrior player, I really am pretty happy with them. The swords look great. The prot weapons look great. Overall very, very happy. And I think a lot of the artifact weapons look really cool. I think it'll be nifty to see how these progress and how this works out as a mechanic in Legion. But yeah, that's going to draw this video to a close. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for being so long, but it felt like the most appropriate way to go over this. I was doing this before, and I just wasn't liking how the video was coming out, so decided to give this a try and see how it turned out. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you did, and I'll catch you next time.